Hi guys! Alright, so in today's video we're going to cover a variety of topics. Hopefully I'm speaking loud enough for you to be able to hear me, but because I know I kind of have a baby voice sometimes and I don't always talk as loud as I should, but yeah, so I don't even know where to start today. We have so much stuff going on. I spent all day yesterday prepping, so I think I finally finished at like 1 o'clock in the morning this morning. I was so tired and my back was killing me. So we talked about the more permanent dyes, like the very cheap drugstore dyes and how they worked. So you guys had some questions about that, such as would the semi-permanent dyes such as Manic Panic, stuff like that, would that work? And would they also kind of leach over because they are like a thicker formula? And then would Vaseline stop the dye from, I guess, like possibly staining the face, as well as could it stop the leaching if you put on the hair? Alright, so I'm here to answer those questions and more for you guys. But the first thing I went over was there's a very large difference between my two Skylers, and as you guys have seen previously, and I'm sure if you follow like the Facebook pages or Instagram pages, you've probably seen where someone recently compared a newer Ruby to an older version of Ruby, and they have very much like a slightly different face shape, a more like pointy chin, and like I had two Jades, and the newer Jade not only had different makeup, but her head was also just like a smidge smaller. So I did compare two Skylers. So I don't normally note the difference between dolls, even though I have multiples of all of them, but I was noticing in my newer Skylar as I was getting ready to dye one, that the older one's hair is slightly darker and shinier than the newer one. She's also rooted a lot, I guess, tighter. You can see the gaps between this one's hair, and her hair feels a lot thinner than the older one. Also, up close, their makeup is different. Sorry, trying to hold them at the same time. The newer one has darker brows and shadow. Her lipstick is a little more, I don't know, nude looking versus the rosier color of the original one. And the newer one's skin looks slightly darker. So, I don't know. I just wanted to show you guys like a close-up of the makeup differences and of the hair differences, because their hair looks really different. So one of the things I had found was that my first Skylar had much thicker hair. My second one actually had areas where there was no hair at all, like empty holes where no hair was plugged in. So that was one of the major differences. There was also some differences in their makeup, as the newer one had a bit darker makeup and slightly different lip color. I didn't really notice a huge difference in their face shape, but I have noticed that when people do the comparison photos, a lot of times they're not taken at the same angle or with the same light. So it's very hard to tell if they actually have different face shapes or if it's just kind of this illusion made from different lighting and different angles. As we all know, we've got our selfie angle that does give us a much like pointier like jawline and narrow jaw versus, you know, if you were shooting straight on. Also, whatever camera lens you use, and different cell phones have different camera lenses, obviously, because like I have it's like iPhone 11 Pro, and it has like the 3 cameras on the back. So my pictures are going to be very different than somebody with an older iPhone that has like a singular camera. Also, anybody who takes theirs with a DSLR versus a cell phone, etc. So there is this kind of difference, and that different lenses have a different like curvature to them. So like when you're using a DSLR, there are certain like shorter lenses you can use that will make things look wider, or versus like certain different ranges or millimeter lenses you could use that will make stuff look thinner or more narrow. So, you know, even as I was working as a photographer, I had to do a lot of Photoshop in terms of kind of offsetting that lens curvature and how wide or narrow it made things look. So that's a thing. So it's very hard to tell if this is an actual illusion or if they're coming out with a different face shape. We did see in, for instance, Monster High, and I think some of the LOL OMG dolls have this, where if they're made from 2 different factories, they have slight differences to them. So there are a batch of the OMG dolls that have, I think it's like SZE on the package, and they have, I think, either lighter or darker skin than the ones with WZE on it. In Monster High, the dolls that were made in China and the dolls that were made in Indonesia did not always look the same. Some of them had slightly different makeup, or were rooted better or worse than other ones. So that is something to take into account as well when you're seeing these pictures go around. But I did do this comparison with Skylar, and of course, when I was picking the one whose hair to dye, I ended up picking the older one because, well, she is rooted thicker. For some reason, when I looked at her, I didn't like her as much as the newer one. And I know, like, it's a very minimal thing. I actually like her makeup better than the newer one. So I'm not sure what it is. It was just something when I looked at them where I was like, I like the older one's hair better for dyeing. Yeah, we're gonna take a look right quick at the dyeing process and then at the results. Okay, so I've got my towel down. I decided to use my original Skylar only because I don't know why, but this huge swath of light blue bothers me on this one, but not on the newer one. And then we've got our semi-permanent Manic Panic in Shocking Blue. Hopefully it's going to bring it closer to this dark blue. And we've got a little brush. I'm going to brush this in and then show you guys what it looks like. So the hardest part was definitely separating the hair I wanted to dye versus the hair I wanted to leave the color it is. So it did make it very messy because I had to basically go through her hair and just pick out just certain strands to do. It caused a very big mess, even with gloves and everything else. So even when I got like a spot on her cheek, I just used like a wet wipe, like a makeup wipe or a baby wipe, and wiped it off right away. And I had no problems with staining. So she turned out really good. There's no staining on her face from any spots where the dye got. It is much prettier, I think, to me now because it's not that like icy white looking whatever. And you can see where I left the teal, I left the sapphire blues alone. I only did that white color. It would have come out darker had I left it on longer, but I figured an hour was long enough. Like I was just trying to really see if it worked, but it still came out satisfactory. So yes, Manic Panic works. She came out really well. Obviously, like I said, the Manic Panic works. It's messy, it's more expensive, and it takes longer. So it takes like an hour versus the Rit dye, which takes like 5 minutes. It costs like $10 versus Rit dye, which costs anywhere from like 3 to 5 depending on the color and the place where you get it. So that is the main difference. Now with dyes like Manic Panic that are resealable, you can use them multiple times. However, and I'd imagine the same would be for like overtone and stuff like that. If you're using a box dye from a drugstore or a grocery store, it's going to be a one-time use. So you got to think, do I want to pay $10 for a one-time use, or do I want to get a couple of Rit dyes that I can use multiple times? It really comes down to the color you're going for, because Rit dye isn't necessarily going to offer every color that you want, no matter how much you mix it. Sometimes buying a human hair dye is just more, I guess, adventurous, so something to consider. For instance, I recently was asked to show more Crystal Bailey because she is a very big fan favorite. The problem with that is that her hair is so dark. Starting off, it is a mixture of like a darker blue and a darker purple. It really doesn't have a lot of dyeing options. I mean, you can go black with it, you can go brown, you can go a darker blue, you can go a darker purple, but lighter colors aren't going to take. So short of re-rooting her or trimming all her hair off and giving her a wig, I'm kind of limited to how much I can dye her. When I did my last crystal, I put her in like a red and fuchsia mix, and it really didn't come out as anything. So I tried brown over that, and it just came out like a dark plum. And I think I didn't get the heat high enough and leave it dipped long enough because I was nervous. So I recently decided to do another Crystal Bailey. This time around, I tried again to get that more rich plum color using the fuchsia pink. And I would say it's pretty successful. I think in this lighting it looks kind of brown, but in person it's a very rich raspberry color, which you can kind of tell depending on how the light catches the edges of it. I think she turned out really good. 10 out of 10 would do again, but it is really hard with Crystal. It's not that I don't love her as a doll, I just kind of wish they'd given her like a pastel or a lighter color so we could have done more with her in general. But I still like the way that one turned out. Now, had I not liked it, I could have used the Rit Dye Remover. You guys. So, I tried this out for you guys because a lot of people asked me, does it work? And I hadn't really tried it, so I wasn't able to say much. I did mention that I was going to try it, and Crafty Fox Creations 2020 mentioned that she had used it, I think on the clothes. I don't know if she used it on the doll, I can't remember, but that she said that it smelled really, really bad. She was accurate. It smells disgusting. My husband asked me to describe the smell, and I told him it was a mix of like cat urine and mildew. It was really, really gross. So, did it work? Yes, technically. It was really weird because I guess I expected to see the dye come off the hair and turn the water a different color, and it didn't. The water stayed yellow, um, even though the hair color I was taking out was purple, and it didn't take out the color the doll started with. So it took out the purple Rit dye and left her hair back to red because I used Cheer Ruby. A lot of people were asking, would the dye remover remove the original color of the hair and leave it a lighter color or a pastel or whatever, almost like a bleaching would? And it didn't work. As we've discussed previously, regular clothing bleach doesn't work, hair bleach doesn't work, nothing really lightens their hair. So whatever color you get so far is pretty much what you're starting with from what I've found. So I used the dye remover. It smelled terrible. It did take the purple out because I dyed this Cheer Ruby, and instead of going straight to purple, I don't remember what I think I did like a wine red, and it was really pretty, but it just wasn't what I wanted. I went back, I used the purple, it just ended up too dark for what I wanted, so I thought, well, let's see if I can strip it out and go just purple. It did strip out, but it also stained the doll, which I didn't expect. The dyes have never stained the dolls, so I didn't think the dye remover would, but I actually left Ruby with a huge yellow stain all around the back of her neck, the front of her forehead. I was really worried that she was ruined. She wasn't, don't worry. I actually kept, I know I've shown it in a previous video, the Oxy cream, the acne cream. And I put it on the stained areas. I put her in the sunlight, which we don't have a lot of in Virginia right now. We've gotten snow for the last 2 weeks. We're expecting more snow all in the next week, like a whole bunch, I guess. So we haven't had a lot of bright sunlight, but I put her in what sunlight we did have for like probably like 2 to 3 hours. It wasn't a lot left because it was towards the end of the day. And honestly, I was really surprised, but no staining at all. Nothing left. It's all gone. The Oxy cream took it all off just in that few hours. I did try to re-dye her hair purple, and really her hair was still left darker than it was originally. So I didn't expect this, but I put in more purple and her hair is basically black. So I might just go ahead and go over it with the black to take these last little remaining bits of red out of the front. And yeah, so the red dye remover worked. It wasn't my favorite experience. Would I do it again? No. But if you just went terribly wrong, I would say give it a try, but know that it can stain your doll. And keep the Oxy cream on hand. I don't know that the Oxy cream is going to work every time. Maybe I just got lucky. Also keep that in mind. Okay, so we've talked about, do semi-permanent dyes work? Yes. But they also have the potential for staining. As long as you wipe it off right away, you should be okay. Crystal Bailey, I love her, but her hair is just really hard to dye because of how dark it is. The dye remover works, but runs the risk of staining. Keep that in mind. The other question you guys had for me was about the Vaseline. Putting it on the skin did keep the skin from staining. Putting it on the hair, though, did absolutely nothing. It did not keep the dye from leaching. It just kind of made their hair greasy, and I had to shampoo it, so it didn't really do anything. I don't want to show too much of this next doll because she was a commission, and I'm sure that the person who ordered her is going to want to do their own reveal. And also please ignore the outfit she's wearing. It's not what she's going home in. It's just something for the video. But I was asked to do a doll that had half black, half rainbow hair, very similar to the Jet Dawson promo we've seen. So I thought that would be a good time to try out the Vaseline. I wanted to do the black first, so I put the Vaseline all around the face as well as all over the hair from this half mark over that was going to be rainbow. The black still leached. It wasn't dark enough and it wasn't serious enough that it still showed up after I dyed over it with the rainbow colors, but it was there. Like it very much still leached. The Vaseline on the hair did nothing. Sorry guys. I mean, it did keep her face clean, but I haven't really had trouble with these dyes staining anyway, so I don't know if it made that big of a difference. Of course, her hair's in a bun, so you can't really see it, but like the black did leach a little bit onto some of the roots. It just didn't make that big of a deal though. I mean, if you look at her from the front, because the black leached kind of towards the bangs, there's really nothing there. Like it didn't really do anything. It wasn't dark enough to matter, but the Vaseline did not stop it from like leaking. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's anything that will keep it from leaching, because I really haven't found a cure for that yet. I don't know if there is one, but let's get to the core topic of this video. I did not mean for this to be the main topic. It was something I was going to do on just one set of dolls. There were a lot of dolls I wanted to do eye swaps on. There really were, but as I mentioned previously, I saw a video where somebody did an eye swap. It was terrifying. They just kept burning their hands over and over. It just made me really kind of traumatized by it. Like, I don't even mean that lightly. Like, I mean, it made me really afraid, and I was like, I'm not doing it. I'd seen a lot of other people do it. I think it was Marcus Royale on Instagram who hit me up. He did a live video where he showed using a blow dryer instead of hot water to heat the doll's head up and make it more elasticy in order to pop the head off, and then take a screwdriver in through the neck, pop the eyes out, and then how to put the eyes back in. So one of the things I was nervous about is taking the head off, because if you've had Monster High dolls, if you've had, you know, Barbie dolls, etc., it's very easy to break that neck and have that little thing pop out. Rainbow High necks are made much sturdier. So first of all, they don't have that little loop that comes down around a little twiggy stick, so that when you pull their head off, like, you risk the whole thing pulling out. Their neck is pretty solid, and then it goes up into this kind of like weird base thing and then a little hooked anchor. And honestly, if you wanted to take their heads off later and not have it be so strugglesome, you can actually trim that anchor and their head still sits on just fine and isn't too wobbly or crazy. Because I gave that a try, but I think I forgot to film it, so that's a thing. But so yeah, so I decided to go ahead and do the hot water method from the second video I had seen, actually, where someone puts the doll in like a Ziploc bag and then dips that into the hot water, keeping the doll's hair dry, helping maintain the hairstyle to some degree. I found that when wiggling to pull the head off, because you're kind of button methoding it back and forth to pop one side out and then kind of the other, was that the hair is still going to kind of get messed up from how you're holding the head. So most of them I did still have to redo their hairstyle afterwards, so that was very much a thing. But I will say that getting the head off was kind of scary, but once I saw how it was built up inside, I was less scared. It is still easier, definitely, to get the head soft and do it by heating it up. So I did that, and then while the head was still soft, I had this tool, like a random tool in my kitchen. I don't actually know what it was, if it was a handle for something, but I'm gonna put it in the neck, used it to pop the eyes out. They look kind of crazy actually coming out. And then I would reheat the head after that to put the new eyes back in, just to kind of keep the head as pliable as possible in between. I did find that using that same tool to kind of press up and stretch the eye hole made it easier to tuck their eyes back in, again using kind of a button method. The outside is the side that has the most white showing, so I would tuck that in first and then tuck the inner corner in, so that to not bend the lashes and not have any of those kind of problems. I will say that, wow, I was surprised at how easy it was. I changed the eyes on 15 dolls in under an hour. Once I got it kind of figured out, the first one was a little tough getting them back in. I was very kind of timid about worrying about scratching their makeup and in their lashes. I actually didn't have any of that problem once I figured out how to kind of hold the thing open. The only thing I'd say is you need one hand to hold the head, one hand to push the eye open, and then one hand to kind of hold the tool in to kind of stretch the eye out. So I kind of pushed it against my tummy. This morning I woke up with bruises on my tummy and I was like, how did those get there? Duh. So that Now I have to explain to my husband. I remember how the bruises got there, because this morning I was like, I don't know where these came from. Okay, but whatever. So I will say that was very much a thing to pay attention to, is that you kind of balance everything to make it easy. But it was so easy. I started at 2:30. My husband was going to be home by 3:30 and we needed to leave to go somewhere. I was able to do all of those dolls by the time he got home, pretty much, getting everybody's head back on. And this is heating, taking out, popping out the eyes, heating, taking out, putting the eyes back in, putting the head back on. So there's multiple steps, and I was still able to do 15 dolls in about an hour. It is much easier than I expected. So who got whose eyes? So my Rainbow Sunny ended up getting Stella's eyes. Stella got Karma's eyes. Karma got Rainbow Sunny's eyes. Violet and my Galaxy Bella switched eyes, or my Dark Violet and Galaxy Bella switched eyes. And then Kia and my Cheer Poppy switched eyes. And then the pink version I have of Avery and the black version I have of Amaya switched eyes. And then, oh goodness, so this one was kind of complicated. So Cheer Skylar got Bella's eyes. Ruby got Skylar's eyes. Crystal got Ruby's eyes, and Bella got Crystal's eyes. And then these guys got different eyes because I always wondered how Poppy would look with green. Alright, you guys, so I hope you enjoyed seeing everybody's eye swaps, how they turned out. I thought it was really fun. Like I said, it was really easy. Hopefully this video has been very informational and, you know, giving you the confidence to go and do those eye swaps. Use that semi-permanent dye. Probably avoid the dye remover, but feel more comfortable that if you do use it and it stains it, the stain will come out. And I don't know, I look forward to making these videos for you guys. Hopefully you have even more questions for me to explore. I'm no scientist, but I'm kind of enjoying the experimenting. So yeah, ask all your questions down below. If you like this video, please hit the like button, subscribe, hit the bell if you want notifications, all of that kind of stuff, and let me know what you want to see next. And thank you guys for joining me. I will see you next week.